It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Which I don't understand. There I am. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I don't know what happened there, but I'm back here now. And I am so happy today. I have Loy Brunson on, who's going to give us an update on the SCOTUS case. And we're wondering, we'll find out if SCOTUS is captured in the long run. Hopefully not. But Loy has been showing people the way to try to make a change when our government isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So, and the rights of the people are supposed to be first. Okay. Welcome, Loy. I'm so happy to have you on.
Great to be here. Thank you.
It's wonderful what you and your brothers have been doing. I love it. I just got it. And you're not taking no for an answer. You just keep right on going with it.
Oh, thank you, Gail.
It's awesome. Now, what is the current status? And then we can go to your website and show a little video that you have.
Well, the current status on this second petition that's at the Supreme Court, and it's a Rule 11, and it's a very specific kind of petition where they only allow it if someone in the clerk's office, might be a justice or two, classifies it as a Rule 11, allowing us to bypass the normally mandated route to go with the final lower court, which would have been the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals in this case. So they denied in a conference a hearing, and we will have another conference. We'll be sending off a petition for rehearing, it's what it's called, with more information, additional information. And with that, they will set a conference date, and probably in October, because they break for the whole summer. And to us, it's great that we were involved in the last conference of the year. Even though they denied it, we get another conference. So this allows us time to raise more awareness for people to send letters to the court at loybrunson.com. And the video, I think you're going to show a video that explains all that. But so we have another conference date to be looking out for. You can check it at supremecourt.gov. You'll probably see a date within the next 10 to 20 days on the docket at supremecourt.gov. So we're in this battle not to quit.
No, never give up. Never give up. That's wonderful. But let me share that video here. So bear with me. Let me find it and bring it up.
Thanks.
Oh, here's what you just explained. And as you can see, I watched the video once already. Okay, this is all right. I will start the video. And it's only 5 minutes, so bear with it, but it gives a great explanation of what Loy and his brothers have been doing. Come on, get back here. Okay, there we go.
Imagine you have the power. As people around the world have had enough, corruption in governments, lies in the media, personal interest over the people's interest. Is there any chance that we, the people, can restore our republic?
It's amazing that the Constitution is set up in such a way for the people to go to the most powerful branch of government, and that is the Supreme Court of the United States.
I heard of this new name, Loy Brunson, and I listened to Loy.
I'm thinking, gosh, this is crazy what's happening in America.
here are 100 members of Congress that are claiming with evidence that there is a concern that needs to be investigated.
On behalf of petitioners of Loy Brunson and We the People, it's a grassroots organization involving citizens across the country.
But I was like, no, that can't be true. That can't be true.
Loy Brunson's strategy works this way. After the 2020 election, hundreds of citizens and elected lawmakers stepped forward with evidence of misconduct and malfeasance and criminal behavior during that election. Well, Brunson's argument is that Congress was constitutionally required to investigate this evidence due to their oaths of office, in which every member swears to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And so we're not suing about the outcome of the election. We're not suing to put someone in office. We're suing to remove the security breach. And the security breach is every single member of Congress that refused to do their job and defend this country.
Are you kidding me? And I'm literally going on the Supreme Court website and I downloaded the case that he was referring to. Holy cow, this is like everything. Of all the anxiety that we all have, all the prayers that have gone towards, asking for God's intervention somehow, some way, bring his vengeance. Because these people, these evil people, are overthrowing our country.
We're part of We the People, right? And so when you petition for redress of grievances, you don't petition to the Congress. You don't petition to the president. You petition through the courts. And then the final court of the land, the Supreme Court of the United States, is the final say on that petition for redress of grievances. And that's what we've been able to do.
In 1939, Jimmy Stewart played an all-American patriot, Mr. Smith.
I can't help feeling that there's been a big mistake somehow.
Mr. Smith, fighting for we the people and our Constitution.
I don't think I've ever been so thrilled in my whole life. And that Lincoln Memorial. Gee whiz. Mr. Lincoln, there he is. He's just looking right straight at you as you come up those steps. Just sitting there like he was waiting for somebody to come along.
The swearing in of the Senate that designates the order of business. The gentleman will raise his right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that you will bear true faith?
Article 6 of the Constitution requires every one of them that have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution to be bound by that oath. And to be bound by that oath, you are responsible. You are liable.
So help you God?
I do.
Senator, you can talk all you want.
It's amazing that the Constitution is set up in such a way for the people to go to the most powerful branch of government, and that is the Supreme Court of the United States, to correct the errors and the problems that have happened.
Basically, this would be the Supreme Court voting to just completely purge the U.S. government and reform the U.S. government.
Never before have we seen the Supreme Court have as much power as they have right now because of the set of circumstances. They can go behind closed doors and do what they need to do and do what's right.
We produce this video in hope to inspire and empower you, and showing you how the power can be restored back to the people. But today, you can leave a legacy for generations to come that you were part of restoring our constitutional republic. Thousands of letters are being mailed to the United States Supreme Court in support of this Brunson case. Please mail your letters today, and even invite your children to write letters and be a part of this historic moment. Share this with friends and family. Invite organizations, companies, one voice standing up, speaking out, and taking action for we the people and our constitutional republic, proving that the pen is mightier than the sword.
Now, I think that one of the things that has happened is you have made the letter writing process so simple. I mean, it only takes people a couple of minutes. You go to this website. Let me see if I can find it on the website to show people what I'm talking about. I mean, it takes you about 2 minutes. If you can't take 2 minutes of your time to stand up for your country and try to get our rights back before we lose them all, I don't know what to say. I just love our country too much to let that happen. So now, if you look at this, this is loybrunson.com, correct? And so it's very easy to find. So all they're asking is maybe $2, which would cover the stamp and getting it into the mail, which is nothing really. And that's what to send the letter. And then let me go down farther. You fill it out, your personal message, you sign on the website itself, and voila. You click the send button and off it goes. And you have done your part by sending in a letter to support getting our rights back. We are the people, and we do need to step up. Thank you so much for doing that. I just think it's wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
Now, your brother filed another case against three of the
most liberal justices. Yes.
Okay. What was the punch behind that case?
Well, it's basically violating their oath of office, and because the petition was not set for a hearing, he decided to do that. And so they battled in federal court, and the battling is finished. They're waiting for a judge to make a decision, and the judge just happens to be a Trump-appointed judge. And so we're not saying that because he would be prejudiced, but because it seems that the Republicans are more concerned about the contents of the Constitution and upholding it than the liberals, who have taken a position that the Constitution is irrelevant and old and no good, even though
no.
so that's happening. So, but the most exciting part of this, the justices could do something, and now with this petition, they actually have it on their they could do something. We have a conference coming up. We'll send off. We're allowed one more conference so they can reconsider a date for a hearing, and we're going to send that off within the next 2 weeks. We should be able to go to supremecourt.gov and see that. But one of the most exciting things of this is people awakening and hearing, oh, there's supposed to be a binding oath. What does that mean? And it's like, oh, they've given themselves immunity. Oh, and there are statutes out there that exclude politicians when it comes to perjury statutes, so they can't be charged with perjury if they lie.
Where were we when all this went down? People weren't paying any attention.
So just that awareness is fantastic. And it's like people coming together, supporting an incredible introduction into the power of the Constitution, beginning with Article 6, with the words, they shall be bound by oath to this Constitution. And then knowing that they've given themselves immunity, knowing that they've been acting in their own minds with immunity. And that's it's like, you guys don't have the immunity you think you do, because Article 6 is still alive and well. And so it's a great awakening. And so many people have gone to classes and studied the Constitution. They come out with a great amount of knowledge having to do with the history behind it, but not the power in it. And so this is a great introduction. And also, if people want to see some of the concepts that we present within the pleadings, within the petition, they can actually go to 7discoveries.com and get an exact copy. We printed extra copies that the Supreme Court justices have been reviewing that have been distributed to them. So we thought, let's print extra copies so people can actually have a copy of a Rule 11 petition for writ of certiorari. The first time since the 70s one has ever been filed, first time for someone representing themselves it's ever been filed in the history of the court, so they can actually look at it. And it's like an expose on the Constitution and the oath of office. So it's an educational piece, it's a historical piece, it's an opportunity for people to come together in a powerful way, regardless of political background or political affiliation, in just the fact that we want honest government. We want them to be bound by oath. that the Constitution demands. So it's a great activity, and we're so fortunate that my first denial, we get two. The first denial was the last conference before the summer break. So we have this summer to just work like crazy to build awareness. And I just ask people, if you like the video, like the message, go to your pastor, go to your church leader, go to a club, go to your group and show it to the leader, asking them if they will show it to the group, and be there when they show it to the group so you know they did it, and send us a message about what happened, and see if they can want to engage. I went to a church service not too long ago in Northern California, and I just attended. I wasn't even invited. I just wanted to go. And they recognized me because they had done the letter campaign. And about 1,000 people gave me a standing ovation on the stage before I even had a chance to say one word. They were so excited about, and I was more excited than them, that they had engaged like this. And it's so easy to do it at loybrunson.com. And it's just so exciting to see the education taking place behind.
It's really needed. I think we forgot.
Yeah,
people have gotten, I hate to say lazy, but
it's easy to. Yeah, we have these constitutional scholars and our representatives, and we trust them, and they can't do all the work. They represent us, and so if we show them what we know in the Constitution, and it's something that they've forgotten, it's fantastic. It's like going to the reading of a will. Your uncle leaves you $10 million. But he didn't put it in the will. He put it in the addendum, but you didn't know that. And so because you hadn't read it and looked for your special part of the will, if the lawyers are sloppy or crooked, you lose your $10 million. You walk out of there and go, gosh, you didn't leave me anything. But if you read your will, and this is what the Constitution is, it's your Uncle Sam's will to you to protect your liberty and your property and your money. And so you have an opportunity to stand up with other Americans supporting the Constitution and the binding oath.
And that document was God inspired. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Absolutely was. Absolutely was.
Now, one of the things that was kind of disturbing that I heard recently, that many of these people have not even signed an oath of office.
Well, they would be even more liable. And that we ask in our pleadings in our lawsuit, we ask that the court refer the defendants for criminal investigation so they can find out why they neglected to pause for 10 days, why they neglected to defend the most sensitive center. I guess you could say the heart of our constitutional republic is the election system. And we were attacked. And all the representatives knew that we had been attacked. As a matter of fact, in our pleadings, we show that both sides were accusing each other of treason, in relation to all of this. Mm-hmm. And so when you're attacked, you investigate regardless of regardless of the outcome, so that's why we're saying it's not about the outcome. It's we were attacked. And when you're attacked, you investigate to prevent another attack that might be more serious. And then there's so many people on both sides saying, oh, the election deniers. It's like, well, maybe if we'd taken 10-day pause to investigate, maybe that would have put it to rest. But when there's not the investigation that's needed, then there's cause for alarm. And it's a big alarm. If you go to a police station, report a crime, they're obligated to do some investigating. And if you have 145 members of Congress going to the police station saying, hey, we think that there's been crimes, well, they better darn well investigate. And when the 145 members of Congress with evidence go to the other members of Congress and they refuse to investigate, that is very, very fishy.
Very, very fishy. And not to mention the same Congress behind some of the things that went on with this too.
Absolutely. A lot of violation of their oath of office and the Constitution, and they got away with it because of our ignorance. Well, let's not be ignorant anymore.
Exactly. So it's a major education campaign that is needed across this country to get people back familiar with the Constitution and the rights that they have had taken away during this time. And once they get taken away, it's really more difficult to bring them back. So this is extremely important. Yes. And I want to emphasize to anyone listening to please go to Loy's website and fill out that letter and send it off. We don't want to become a communist country, be more enslaved than we already have been. And that's a whole nother story. But how many letters do you have already?
I think we have around 9,000 for this petition. There were about 70,000 with my brothers, and those they all work together too.
Oh, good.
This is a different petition, so it's growing. And through the summer, we hope we get 1 million or maybe millions. You never know. I have some appointments coming up that would really stir the pot and get this going. So, but if people want to go to 7discoveries.com, they can get this. This is such an incredible guide to the Constitution. It's discoveries that I've made that have helped us with our complaints and our lawsuits. And it exposes things that have never been exposed before. There are power clauses in here that are super important that have been hidden for political reasons. And so people can get that too at 7discoveries.com.
Let me open that up if I can find it just real quick.
And here's what the Rule 11 petition for writ of certiorari looks like. It's perfect bound. This is exactly what the court is reviewing. It has the Supreme Court stamp on it right there and the number that they put in. And so we have additional copies. That's available also at 7discoveries.com for people. But there's some amazing discoveries, and I was blown away when I started finding these discoveries. I thought everyone knew them. But one of them is that I found that there's an interpretation clause in the Constitution that demands the Constitution only be interpreted in ways that protect our rights. It's like a mission statement, only stronger because it's contractual. And so that's in there as well. Also, it talks about who is the God of the Declaration of Independence and who is the God of the Constitution. Well, the Constitution, a lot of people know this, was memorialized with the Christian calendar. So our Lord is actually in Article 7. And as far as the separation of church and state goes, we know that the separation is the protection of religion from government, and that's the separation. So there's not a separation of church and state. Those words do not exist. And then also, if you were to ask a member of Congress, anyone, to show you a clause in the Constitution that specifically defines and prohibits socialism, they wouldn't be able to tell you unless they had this book. And so that's outlined as well. There's Q&A in the back of it. There's even the 10 Commandments. We put the 10 Commandments in there for Nancy Pelosi because she's Catholic, and I'm sure she'd like to have the 10 Commandments in her pocket-sized book with the Constitution in it. And also, we have the Congressional Oath inside the front cover. The Congressional Oath is not in the Constitution, so I put it in the inside front cover. And then we have a statement from George Washington and the sanctity of oaths at the bottom. And so it's really filled with such an incredible guide. It took years to put it all together and connect the dots. And just in a matter of minutes, you can just gain more ground and information than most people, maybe all people on Capitol Hill at this point have.
Wow. I wonder how many of them even know the Constitution at all.
Well, it's funny. If there were perjury laws that were in effect, they could be asked, when did you read the Constitution last? And if they hadn't read it but still swore to uphold and defend it, how do you swear to uphold and defend something you haven't read, right? You don't know the contents of. So that'd be proof of perjury, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
So this is so the oath of office, I believe, is the Achilles heel. We start there. We show them that it's required to be binding. We show them that they've given themselves unconstitutional immunity or hidden behind unconstitutional immunity. And with the perjury statutes that they've been able to exclude themselves in, it's some evidence that they'd better get busy and repent of their sins, right? And
correct.
To show them that we're onto them. We are knowledge, and maybe they've forgotten, or maybe they've just never been aware. I interviewed Mike Lee before he was a candidate for U.S. Senate. And it was about the oath of office. We did a video, my brothers and I. It was called The Oath of Office, the Thread by Which the Constitution Hangs. And so I asked Mike, he was a neighbor, he was a friend. I said, on camera, what is the penalty for breaking the oath of office? And he stepped back and thought, and he gave some pretty good information. Basically, he was kind of dismayed himself. It's like, wow, once you think about it, they're not enforcing the oath. And he says, but it should be enforced. And some good comments. So here was an example of just a simple question. It's supposed to be binding. How is it binding? And I asked Senator Hatch that same question. Oh, you lose the election. It's like, are you kidding me? You lose the election? Wait a second. The election comes before you take the oath. Come on.
Whoa.
It's like, gosh, but see, they can't skirt that question. It's like a question that will resonate with them. And if they're honest, they'll think about it. They'll see. And then if millions of Americans wake up and are screaming with their letters in a nice way, hey, How's the oath binding, for crying out loud, right? It's supposed to be binding, and that's what these letters are. It's the pen mightier than the sword. And the oath. We, the people, now know there's supposed to be a binding oath, and you guys have skirted that. You've ignored it, and now we're on to it. Now let's become honest, representatives, and at least admit that you haven't thought that there's a binding oath, and now you know there is, and let's do something about it.
And if you haven't signed yours, you better.
That's right, because you're even in bigger trouble if you haven't signed it. That's right.
Exactly. Because I guess quite a few of them haven't, or that's what I've been told.
That's what I've heard, and I'm hoping that our cases have had something to do with inspiring that. My dad, quite a few years ago, before he passed away, showed me a picture of the city council in the city we lived, of them all signing their oath. I said, "What happened?" He says, "I sent them a letter telling them that that they had discovered that they hadn't signed their oath. The state constitution requires that they cannot act officially in the capacity of their office until they subscribe their oath, and that means signing a document that you support and defend and uphold the Constitution of the United States."
Wow. Now, how did they manage to get this immunity thing? I think this qualified immunity is a bad thing for anybody, because we all should be held accountable.
You know where we were off track at the beginning? We were off track on a few things. We were off track on the creation of money. We allowed the central bankers to create our currency. And so, but one of the main things is Article 1, Section 8, really, if we look at it closely, gives the Congress the power to educate us in the Constitution and to fund our constitutional education. So that should have been started as soon as the Constitution was signed. There should have been an education of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, I call it the militia clause. It says that the Congress basically has the power to raise funds, raise money to discipline us in the militia. Now, we could have an education militia with no age limit or no minimum age, actually. And so what is disciplining the militia? It's education. And what is the purpose for the militia? In Article 1, Section 8, it's for the enforcing the laws of the Union. And what is the laws of the Union? It's the Constitution of the United States. So it's right there. So every single public school could have been had a funded constitutional studies program with testing, and they could have funded it with government money, and it would have been completely constitutional. And because of that, we got way off track, and we're way off track here, and hopefully we can get back. Thomas Jefferson gave the answer. He says, what is the key to correcting constitutional abuse? And he said, it's education. It's disciplining the militia, and we all could belong to an education militia, all could have at the beginning of the Constitution after its signing, and we failed to do that. So that's why we're off track, is lack of education. And so the goal here is to help people become educated, and the introduction of the Constitution with a binding oath is a great way to begin our constitutional education in meaningful ways that we can actually use to get the job done and get good representatives in office that are willing to uphold their oath of office and have it be binding.
And actually work for the people instead of themselves.
Absolutely.
Someone made the comment, a nice framed portrait of that oath or oaths would look nice on the wall.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
That is a great idea. I should put something behind me. Yes.
Yeah, that was great. That's a good idea. Maybe the people, thank the Constitution, you. And on the other one side.
20. Thank you.
So if anybody has any questions out there, feel free to ask. Now, you also had maybe you could explain what a writ of mandamus is?
Well, writ of mandamus is what happened with my case. And my case that's now in front of the Supreme Court with another conference coming up is really the original case that started first. And because we got stuck in federal court, because we had a judge that caused us problems, my brother, Roland, decided, hey, let's file another one. It's like, yeah, let's do it. So he filed another case in state court, and they moved it to federal court. And then with a different judge in federal court, he got his to the Supreme Court before mine. So, but now mine, what happened was the federal court, it was the 31st of March, 2021. The U.S. Marshal Service was ordered, according to the federal court docket, they were ordered to start serving 388 defendants my summons and complaint, serving my lawsuit. So the U.S. Marshal Service was ordered to serve my lawsuit upon the defendants. And that day, March 31st, 2021, according to the docket, the U.S. Marshal Service served about 84 of them, including Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff, and 81 others. But the next day, April 1st, I got noticed by the federal court that the court had actually called it back, canceled it, unfiled my case. Courts can't do that. They don't have a right to do that. That's the administrative side of the court. And if I hadn't paid my filing fee, they might have had some right to do that. But I had paid my filing fee. They might have gotten it confused, but they canceled it, unfiled it. And so we decided we would challenge that. And so we complained to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals that the federal court had made some serious mistakes, actually creating liability for themselves. And so with that appeal to the 10th Circuit, it wasn't really appeal, it was a complaint, and it's called a writ of mandamus. And so with that, the 3 judges of the Circuit Court, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one step away from the Supreme Court of the United States, with that, they sent their decision back, and they backed up the federal court, but they did it in a strange way because they said that they didn't unfile my case. They said that they didn't cancel my service. And it's like, you guys didn't even read it. They did. You didn't even read the complaint. They basically said that the court was backlogged and they'd get around to it. It's like, whoa. So we took both those courts to state court, sued both courts in state court. And after we battled there, we lost. But guess what happened?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a few weeks later, after we lost, that we were noticed by the federal court that even though we lost the action in the state court, they did what we asked them to do in the lawsuit, and they reversed their decision. They ordered the clerk of the court to issue the 388 summonses. They refiled my case, of course, in order to do that. And
they knew you meant business.
Well, we showed them. We showed Uncle Sam. We showed them the will, right? We showed them that the Constitution of the United States and the state constitution protects my right to petition the government for redress of grievances and to sue any entity or anyone in any court. So we kept pounding that, showing them the constitutional authority behind it. And apparently they got the message because they allowed this to move forward.
Thank goodness for that. Wow. So you guys have had a real don't quit, don't give up attitude, and that's what it takes, because they're going to throw roadblocks at you, especially for something like this, because there's big consequences behind it. And so I just am very happy that you guys are keep pounding away. Right. Don't stop.
We will. We're not going to stop. And as soon as America becomes united in this information, game over. I don't know how many it would take, but as soon as enough Americans just stand up with this letter, they can. Once there are enough Americans stand up, it'll be game over, because the representatives are a part of We the People too, and the justices are a part of We the People too, and they will know that they've got to do something. And they work for us. And as soon as the boss wakes up, the sleeping giant boss, which is We the People, as soon as we completely wake up, wow, game over.
We're getting there. Quite a few people have woken up, in the recent past here, and I hope it just continues with all these good energies coming into the planet that seem to be helping to make that happen. And that's from upstairs.
Absolutely. Yeah. We say that the Constitution is inspired, and I think that's one of the reasons that their signers, I believe, felt that. And I think that's why they made sure that they memorialized the signing of the Constitution, the second clause of the 7th article, with the words "in the year of our Lord." People who said to me, "Oh, well, that's just how they talked back then." And I say back, it's like, well, that's even more proof. They were all aware of that. It's like, of course. But it's interesting to note that the Declaration of Independence does not use the words "in the year of our Lord." And the Declaration of Independence was, of course, a declaration, but the Constitution is an agreement between the states from the state representatives' signatures, and they all agreed before they signed it that they would sign on with the Christian calendar in the year of our Lord. And wouldn't it be great if all government offices, federal, state, and local, use the Constitution calendar? Wouldn't that make sense? They all swear to uphold and defend the Constitution. Well, why don't they take all the stationery and incorporate the Christian calendar as it is in the Constitution that they've swore to uphold, using "in the year of our Lord" when they say the year of every document that they date? Wouldn't that be a great thing? Great awareness.
That would.
So maybe we'll figure out a way to launch that too and see which state incorporates that first, where they use the Constitution calendar on all the dates of all their documents.
Now that would be awesome. That would be a good thing too. One of the things I think that most people feel like they feel helpless. They feel that they don't have that kind of power that you guys are showing them that they do.
Well, this lawsuit is not, this isn't a Brunson lawsuit. This is a We the People lawsuit. This is your lawsuit, viewers. This is yours. You know, we're all a part of this. We're all members of this family of We the People, and we use those words in the lawsuit. So this is yours. You take ownership of it and claim it by sending a letter in, and then you'll be able to tell your grandkids that you took some time out of your life and you actually supported the Constitution in the most significant way that we've ever been able to support the Constitution, with letters to the Supreme Court. There's never been an opportunity like this in the history of this country where you could write a letter to the Supreme Court supporting a binding oath and the Constitution of the United States. And it's interesting, the justices have all taken 2 oaths. Every one of the justices have taken a double Constitution, an oath to the Constitution. One is the judicial oath, which includes supporting, defending the Constitution. Then the other one is very similar to the congressional oath, where it's, again, the Constitution of the United States. And there are military too. This campaign is for the military too. There's some bad information out there that we don't need to do anything, that the military is going to step in, that we're under military law. And it's like, it's so simple to just read a military oath. Their most important obligation is to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So the military, it's important for them too. So if you have loved ones in the military or know anyone in the military, send them the link, loybrunson.com, and ask them to watch the video and share it with their military friends and associates, so that we the people can be on board with the military and supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States.
And it is God inspired. I have to keep saying that because it was divinely inspired when it was written. And if you have an allegiance to that divinity, and you do because it's in your heart, you have that essence, you need to stand up, you need to help out. We want our rights back as God intended them.
And then he can help us. Remember, he didn't say, hey, I'll come rushing in and help whenever you need. No, what did he say? He says you have to.
And what does he do? He works through other people. Just
no,
like
he says you need to knock. Knock and it shall be open. Seek and you shall find. So you work. And I think in every aspect of our lives, God wants us to be successful, right? And I think he worked with Thomas Edison. I think he taught Thomas Edison a lot of faith there. I know he had a lot of employees doing it, but look how many times they tried an idea that came to their mind, and if they had quit before the how many thousandth time, they just kept at it. Finally, they showed that they were persistent enough to get God's intervention, gets God's help. And so at the brink, it might have been the last time they were going to try anything. And what did they do? They received some inspiration. I believe it was from God's, about a vacuum. Try a vacuum, get the oxygen out of there and see if the light will stay on. And it did. And I think about Moses too, the plagues. How many people were on board with Moses and just 100%, oh my gosh, we're going to be freed. And then the plague fails and they're not freed. How many of those people lost faith, but then gained faith when the second miracle happened, the second plague, and then lost faith again probably by the 9th plague? Maybe he had the same percentage as the Revolutionary War. Maybe just 7% of the people were on board and everyone else has gone, what good is it? This is never going to happen. I mean, 9 times, right? And then what happens? The final one, and they're freed. And so everyone had a lesson to learn there. And they learned that you don't give up after the first or the second or the third or the fourth. You keep battling until you get what you know you deserve and what is warranted you.
What is rightfully yours.
So the Brunson brothers and others, we're going to stay in this fight. We're going to be as intelligent as we possibly can, as strategic as we possibly can, as sensible as we possibly can, and stay in this fight to the bitter or the sweet end, whichever.
I think it's going to be sweet. It's going to be sweet. It's just a matter of time. Isn't it? What is that saying too? That my people suffer from lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
something like
you
that. I
shall know
can't
the
remember
truth,
exactly.
and the truth shall make you free. If you
Free,
don't
yes.
have the truth, and he could have easily says, if you don't have the truth, how can you be free? If you don't know you're a slave, if you don't, and think about how God works. He gives you ideas. He doesn't just do everything for you. If he doesn't want to do that, that wouldn't be right. He helps you become strong as a spirit, as a soul, as a person. And so when you have a struggle, you pray and you pray and you think to fix this problem. And then what happens? Boom, you know this, an idea pops into your head. Where did that idea come from? It came from God. But if you quit and you get negative, then you're closing the door to God. You can't receive that incredible piece of information. It could be a phone number. It could be someone that you should talk to. It could be a change with a decision in your business or your family life. It could be anything. And so if you constantly pray and work and struggle and think with your mind of ways to move something forward. And that's what the Brunson brothers have done with this. We've hit so many roadblocks, and we just keep, mainly my brother Darren, man, he would just come up with idea after discouragement. And the federal court blocks your case and unfiles it and says it's deficient and cancels the service. And then with prayer and perseverance, ideas pop into our heads, and then boom, miracles happen.
That's awesome. And I think it's just kind of ironic that you guys are all trumpet players too. Just what we need right now, the different trumpets.
Sound of a trumpet.
Yeah. Now, I'm surprised that a case of this nature isn't given top priority. I mean, when they say they're backlogged or whatever, excuse me, we're talking about.
Well, that was not the Supreme Court. Remember, that was a federal court. We had a liberal judge blocking it. We had an Obama-appointed judge. But this case, we're suing Republicans and Democrats. We're not playing party politics at all. This is every single member of Congress and those others, including Mike Pence, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, that participated in allowing this incredibly large security breach to happen. And not allowing a 10-day pause. So, they learned. I think they learned their lesson, didn't they? And maybe that's why my brother's case has been able to be fully briefed at this time. Whereas it's kind of opened the door for others too. Because if we'd gone to a law firm, they would have said you can't go to the federal court, you can't go to the state court, you need to go to a claims court, you need to get permission from the sergeant at arms. And we showed you don't need to do that. And I think we proved to the justices that the Constitution is alive. They've taken an oath. And the Constitution is very clear that it protects our right to bring a lawsuit against any entity in federal court or state court.
That's awesome. You know what? I have a short 5-minute video that was done by Greg Reese. And it's called Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, and it just ties into exactly what we're talking about. Do you mind if I play that real quick?
Go ahead. That's fine. Go ahead.
I think you'll enjoy it, and it just kind of emphasizes what we're talking about as well.
Sure.
So let me find that. And it starts out with the Constitution here, as you can see. So I'm going to play it.
The Declaration of Independence states that every person possesses 3 inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 247 years have passed, and we have mostly forgotten what those words mean. Today, it seems that most of us think that the pursuit of happiness means the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain and distress. This confusion can best be explained by the dumbing down of America, which we covered in our last video, and the gross lack of spiritual enlightenment in today's society. In modern society, the childish atheist will often ask, if there is a God, why do bad things happen to good people? As if the earth is supposed to be a utopia where humans are born to experience nothing but pleasure. Like all utopian ideations, this is a fantasy for the weak-minded, who seek to avoid the pain of life. Bad things happen to everyone so that we can overcome them, learn, and grow. The earth is nothing at all like a utopia. It is a wild place where one must kill in order to live. It does not matter if one is carnivore, vegetarian, or vegan. And it does not matter if you pay someone else to kill for you. Life can only be sustained by life. And perhaps this is why civilization was created, which many will argue. But more often than not, Civilizations have served the tyrants at the top while enslaving the people to run whatever system has been put into place. But on July 4th of 1776, our founding fathers drafted something very unique, perhaps the most revolutionary form of spiritual self-government which has ever been penned to paper. They understood what the pursuit of happiness meant. To Thomas Jefferson, it meant the pursuit of a meaningful life, and it was preceded on the list by life and liberty because individual freedom is needed in order to choose your own path in life. If God has a purpose for each and every one of us, then we have the right to live our life freely so that we can pursue our own life's work. The American Revolution created a form of government that serves to protect and defend the individual's right to pursue their very own path, so long as they respected the rights of others. It established a form of government whose sole purpose was to protect these unalienable rights that each individual human deserves. But this is obviously not the case anymore. The government today is serving the interests of what we could refer to as the New World Order, a worldwide police state to manage a belligerent population of undisciplined slaves. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are ethical goals, and the problem today is that the American people are no longer an ethical people. Most of us are chasing pleasure in whatever form we can find it in, whether it be drugs, alcohol, food, sex, or just something to buy that will make us feel good for a fleeting moment. While the New World Order definitely had a hand in all this, it is ultimately our own fault. They wanted to turn humanity into an ignorant slave class, so they laid out the bait in the form of social welfare, easy money, and easy access to all sorts of vice. And while some took the bait, those that didn't aren't really doing anything to help our fallen brothers and sisters. Those of us working towards a meaningful life are mostly out for themselves and see the rest as part of the problem. And this has likely been a human struggle throughout all of history. It has often been said that this life is a spiritual battle, and it most certainly is. The majority of the so-called left are not the enemy. They are our neighbors who, through trauma or ignorance, have come to believe the lies of the mainstream media propaganda machine. And they have been weaponized against American patriots by the New World Order. They are the fallen ones. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. If we expect a corrupt government to fix itself while we fight our fallen neighbors, then do we really deserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He did a great piece on our case, our first case on InfoWars.
Oh, I thought it stopped here. Okay, good. Yes, I like his work a lot. And I just thought it went life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How can you do that when you're a slave? You can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to make a comment about people that say, oh, why is there pain in the world? It's like, it's all relative. If you remove pain from the world, then any discomfort at all would be categorized as pain. So, breathing would be considered painful. Oh, I have to inhale, exhale. I have to wake up. I have to eat. I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous point to make that there shouldn't be any pain in the world if there was a God. It's like,
yeah.
You can't grow, no pain, no gain, right?
Right.
And no struggle, and you're going to turn into nothing. And
I always used to say I have learned more from the mistakes I have made in my life than I have sometimes from the things I did right. The things you do wrong really stick with you.
Well, they say that the
It's
greatest
not going to
teacher
happen
is
again.
failure, right? The greatest, it's trial and error. You know, with everything we do, we have an idea, we try something, and we learn every little bit of why it failed, and then we don't repeat it. So absolutely, yeah.
By the way, Loy, one of our watchers thinks you're a great teacher, and you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I am so delighted that you agreed to come on the show, because I think what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal, and you need all the support that you can possibly get from as many people as possible. So everyone who's watching, even if you're not watching now or you watch later, please go to loybrunson.com and send your letter to the Supreme Court so we can become the country that we were meant to be from the very beginning, that has slipped away from us. Whether you know it or not, we're at a precipice that things need to change, and they need to change quickly before it's too late.
And then go to 7discoveries.com and get this, and get the petition, get a copy of the petition that the Supreme Court has. I don't think there's any way you could even go to a library. Maybe you could go to a library and see a petition for writ of certiorari, the way it's required to be bound, perfect bound, and everything. But
I was wondering how you said that word. I looked at it.
Even the justices pronounce it differently. So it's one of those words where you can pronounce any way you want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So 7discoveries.com. Now, I don't have those in my description at this time, but after the video is up and done processing, I will add it to the description so people can get it. But I could also put it in the chat for those of you that are here now real quick. I think we have the other ones. 7.
Sure. If someone wants to put it in themselves in a message for the others, that'd be good. 7discoveries. 7discoveries.com.
There we go.
And then my name, loybrunson.com. Yeah, that works. But the number 7, I think, is a better way to do it. Just the number 7 and then discoveries. I think that should.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe you could even try that and see if that works. It's supposed to, but it's easier to just put the number 7.
Okay.
Discoveries.com and Loy Brunson. And I think both sides should be able to link back and forth to each other if you just scroll down and look at everything.
I don't know what's going on right now with the chat. I've got some weird things happening. Oh, well. 7. So just put number 7 and then discoveries.
Uh-huh.
.com.
I'll try that, writing it out and see what happens. I think when you do the number, it shows that, yeah, I think that's a little more effective. And loybrunson.com.
Can't post messages to some channels. I know that. Huh. I don't know what's happening to my messages right now. It's kind of weird.
I think the number works better because it's been used so much more than the spelling it out.
Oh, okay.
But it does.
All right.
There. Yeah.
Well, you said that you think you'll probably get another hearing in what, a couple.
Oh yeah, we're allowed one more conference. And it's interesting, they even call it a hearing because it's a petition for rehearing. So the conference is like the mini hearing, and then the hearing is the hearing, you know, where the conference I'm not allowed in, or the Solicitor General is not allowed in to, you know, to try to sway the justices in a decision one way or another. But the hearing, that's when I would go in, and that's when the United States Solicitor General would go in as well and present our arguments to the justices and answer questions.
Wow. Okay. So what about your brother's case? Is that still
My brother's
moving
case has been, he filed the case in state court. The U.S. attorneys paid a filing fee to move it to federal court. So they're playing ball. And then the U.S. attorneys filed a motion to dismiss, claiming immunity and other things. My brother filed an opposition to their motion to dismiss. The U.S. attorneys then filed a reply. My brother then filed, I say my brother's because Darren's the legal guy behind it all. And so they filed a request for the judge to make a decision, and that was several weeks ago. They're waiting for the judge to make a decision. And the judge is a Trump-appointed judge. He seemed like a really honorable, honest judge. So he's got quite a responsibility on his plate right now in his court. And depending on what he does, if he rules in favor of the U.S. attorneys, then they will take it to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals and an appeal. And if they lose there, then they will take it to the Supreme Court of the United States. But I think if the federal court rules against my brother, I think they're going to try to get this filed under Rule 11 as well to the Supreme Court. So the battle is continuing. The battles, I should say, plural.
Yes,
really. And as people come on board and support us, and with letters
that's
to the
what we
court,
need. And people always wonder what their purpose is, what they can do to help. This is what you can do to help. This is very, very, very important. I can't emphasize that enough.
That's entering the battle with your name, your support.
Yeah.
So it's great.
And down the road, when your children ask, what did you do when all this was going on? You can say you did something to help.
Absolutely.
And that was extremely important. Now, I want to ask you one last question before we go. And that is, let's assume this goes through and you get a positive response. What would happen next?
Well, there are a number of positive responses. They could do anything from executing the whole complaint fully, as we're asking, or they could just condense it down to a very small punishment or warning, or they could even remand it back to the federal court. They could reverse the lower court's decision to dismiss it, and that would be removing the immunity right there. And then if they did that, then we would be back in federal court without them being able to claim immunity. And then they would be required within a certain number of days to answer the complaint. And with that answer, we can also then depose them, and we can issue interrogatories, questions and answers. We can document production. We can demand document production. And by the order of the court, they would have to comply with the production of this discovery process that would allow us to show what happened, why they voted against or voted for us certifying it before it was really certifiable, in my opinion. Yeah. And so there's a number of things that could happen that would be incredible. Now, because one of our causes of action is civil conspiracy, most attorneys will not represent more than one defendant in a civil conspiracy case. And so to keep it clean, they'd probably need 388 different law firms, and each law firm would have to do a background check, making sure that they hadn't had any business dealings, illegal dealings with any of the other 387 defendants. So that would create quite a stir, but in a way it would be like the court made a decision to just send it back to the federal court. And so I don't know, anything could happen, but I don't think they can really do anything without the public support and public opinion. And that's why it's so important that the letter campaign really is successful. And the reason go ahead.
So as you see it, what is the best possible scenario that you would like to see happen?
Oh, what I would like to see happen is we're watching the news, right? Maybe CNN or something, and all of a sudden there's an extra long commercial
breaking news,
and then we see new faces, and it's like then it's explained to us the reason they're new faces, and they'd be in street clothes, nicely dressed street clothes. They would be military or government special broadcast teams that would come in and say there's a transition happening. We've had some problems, so there's nothing to be concerned about. We're going to be seeing some replacements in Congress and the executive branch, and they would be reporting the news in real time. And that would be after the Supreme Court, just shortly after the Supreme Court had kind of cleaned up and organized what they needed to do by executing an order sent through the U.S. Marshal Service to the sergeant in arms to cancel the credentials of the defendants. And then you would see on the news that there are new campaign opportunities presented, that there may be over 350 members of Congress that are being replaced. And so the states would have to fill those vacancies. And with new campaigns, there would be hundreds of millions of dollars supporting new individuals that would realize that we have a binding oath now. and that if they're
And
going
you work for the people, and we're going to fire you if you don't do your job.
So it would be an incredible, it wouldn't. It's some people go, oh, it would just change the government. No, it would just temporarily create some vacancies that would be filled constitutionally by the states, and the normal processes that would happen, when members of Congress are replaced. And people say, oh, if the Supreme Court does not have the power to do that, and it's like, well, actually they do. And how would you challenge what they did? I mean, they have had the power to determine that babies are not human beings. It's like, you got to be kidding. And if there was a state action against a member of Congress or even a president of the United States, and it was and the president or a member of Congress was convicted of a very serious crime, and that it warranted capital punishment, a capital offense, they could appeal. It could be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court could uphold a capital punishment offense against any member of Congress or any member of the executive branch, including the president of the United States. And if they upheld that, then I would think that capital punishment would be quite a severe way to remove someone from federal office, but it would be a very effective way. So the point is, the Supreme Court does have quite a bit of power if we, the people, support the court in their constitutional decisions.
And I'm going to put this up because Joe Blow says, like President Trump said, we need God's help, and everyone needs to pray for God to intervene in this case and send your letter.
Yeah. And again, regardless of what the justices do or not do, this unity, this power from we the people, with millions of people hopefully coming together, that is an incredible power that will have an incredible effect on this country's future, regardless of what the justices do or do not do.
Well, and the rest of the world is watching what happens to the United States, because we have been leading the way in the past as far as freedom goes. And if we don't pull this back under our control, that's all.
Yeah, God can't help us until we show we want to help ourselves and we seek his help. Then he can step in and help.
Exactly.
Not until.
Exactly. Well, I haven't got any more questions for you. And do you have any final words or anything like that? And
just a big thank you and love. And please go to 7discoveries.com and loybrunson.com and check out what's on those sites, options available to join the movement of the Constitution being supported and upheld, and the binding oath to it. So just a big thank you for your prayers and support.
Yes, and thank you for coming on the show, and I will spread this all over the place as much as I possibly can.
Thank you, Gail. And send me a copy too, a link too, so we can post it as well. Okay,
fantastic. Thank you. Keep up the wonderful work, and we'll get as many people behind you as we can.
Hey, Gail.
This has got to happen.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you.
Let me. Okay, here we go.
We have found our way. It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are, and like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our